This is the Business Storytelling Show, a top global marketing podcast listened to in more than 100 countries, live streamed on social media, and broadcast on DBTV. Christoph Trapp chats with industry leaders to help your company tell better business stories. Here's today's episode.
Let's go, business storytellers. Hey, how's everyone doing? Today, we want to talk about how do we become uncopyable. What's very interesting to me about this whole topic, I'm going to throw up the book here. Steve Miller is joining me on the show, is for our entire lives. As I said on my YouTube short, we are told to be better, be better, just slightly better. But maybe that's not the way to go. Maybe what you have to become is uncopyable. So just a couple of reminders. We are live on Amazon. I see people are tuning in. Really appreciate it. Everything around me, not the Hawkeye football helmet, but everything else you can buy. Those sound panels, that fake plane, which I still think looks kind of nice. And that's kind of cool. Thumbs up. That everything you can see around me, you can buy on Amazon. Scan the code over here for Steve's book, and you can get your own copy and learn how to do it. But let's find out more about what inspired him writing this book. Why is it so hard for brands? Or maybe it's not. And how do you become uncopyable? Steve, welcome to the show.
Christoph, thank you very much. Yeah, boom.
Nice to see you. Always, Steve is a fellow podcaster. I listen to the show. It shows up in my feed. And I really appreciate you making the time. So tell me, I found the book very insightful, very interesting, lots to learn right there. But what prompted you writing the book to begin with?
Thank you, Christoph. Before I answer that question, I want to say that thank you so much for having me on the show. I have listened to several of the episodes that you've had. You are an awesome interviewer. And anybody who wants to be a podcaster, I think, could learn a lot from listening to you. And I also appreciate you doing that YouTube short about my book. But your question about why did I write this, or how did I learn about this stuff? If you go way back into the 1960s, I started, obviously showing how old I am. My father was the co-inventor of the 8-track tape player. And his partner, actually the founder of Learjet, Bill Lear, his founder, and my dad ultimately decided to manufacture the product in Japan because they had a difficult time affording the labor in the United States. But over in Japan, back in those days, the making something in Japan really was not known for high quality stuff. And so they brought a guy in who was doing some work with some companies over there, most notably later on Toyota, a guy named W. Edwards Deming, who was kind of a management theorist and father of the total quality program. And as a kid, as a young teenager, my dad thought it would be really, really cool to drag me along on trips where I would have to hang out with these three old men. And, not really something that a teenage boy wants to do, but that's what he did. And so I got to, I did get to spend some time with Deming. And I'm going to be, totally honest. I don't remember everything that he talked about, obviously. But things started to connect later on to a thing that he called benchmarking. And he said that benchmarking, which is one of the main foundations of the total quality management program, benchmarking is the objective is to observe correct behavior and then emulate within your own context. But there are two types of benchmarking that he described. One is intrinsic, which means that you benchmark within your industry. You benchmark competitors, you benchmark other companies that are within your world. So if you're in the boating world, you would benchmark all the other companies in the boating world, the manufacturers, the retailers, the dealers, everybody like that. And that's essentially, he explained, hey, that's the box everybody says that we're in, is our world, right? He said, and if all you do is study everybody in your community and then take ideas from them, well, for the most part, you're not coming up with new ideas, all right? You're not getting new ideas from them. And what you typically do, like you alluded to earlier, Christoph, was that you would actually end up looking at what somebody else is doing. You say, oh, well, we could do that, but better. We could do it better. And Deming's point was that, well, everybody in your box is doing the same thing. They're all looking at each other, and so you're copying the copiers, and you're just making them a little bit better, and that's not going to help. All right, because it's not a competitive advantage. No, he said that you have to do what he called extrinsic benchmarking, and that is where you go out and you get ideas in other worlds, other boxes, and you bring them back to yours. And the whole purpose being that you find something that is being done successfully somewhere else, you bring it back into your industry, and now you have something different. And the purpose of that is to get out of that competition where you're just back. For the most part, you're competing on price, and so your objective is to separate yourself from the competition, because ultimately people don't buy from you because you're similar to the competition. They buy from you because you have something different to offer them. And that's and that was kind of the genesis of this whole thing of mine. And ultimately, after many years, the word uncopyable hit me, and it resonates really well with everybody. They get it. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's what I want. I want to be uncopyable. I don't want to be doing something that somebody else can take and just be better at it. Right. So that's a long-winded explanation for you, Christoph.
No, we like long-winded here for sure. So the one thing that, just like, I mean, I said it already 100 times, I think, like, people just beat it into you though, right? You want to be better, be better, be better, be better. I mean, that's kind of like even everything is a competition. And I was thinking as you were talking, especially in my line of work, content strategy, what's better anyways? Like, I'll give you an example. There's some people, maybe they stumble across this podcast, not your episode for sure, and they might go, ugh, why do I care about this stuff? This is crap. But there's all kinds of people that disagree, right? Because they listen to it, they watch it on TV, they watch it on social media. So at the end of the day, it also comes down to, how do you measure success? Like, I mean, back in my newspaper days, right, we couldn't measure anything. And then one person called and complained, and all of a sudden they became the ruler of the opinion of whether
Right.
something was good or bad. But it was one person. Give me a break.
Right.
So let's dive into, how do you actually become uncopyable? Like, what are a few steps you can preview from the book?
The first, foremost, simplest thing is this might sound a little bit crazy, but you look at what everybody else is doing and don't do it. When you look at companies like, for example, I'm working on my next book, which is going to be about personal branding. I'm delivering it actually tomorrow to my publisher. It's titled Uncopyable You. So it won't be out till next year. But in there, we talk about, like, Steve Jobs at Apple, was that one of the things that, he did not want to go. When they started Apple and started building their computers, they did not want the computers to be like PCs. They wanted them to be different. Okay. They wanted them to be more user friendly. And he and Steve Wozniak. And so they looked at what the Microsofts and those types of companies were doing, and they said, no, we're going to do the exact opposite. We're going to go over here. Now, how do we find out how to do this stuff? And that's where they, found the, where it was, I think it was Xerox, was the company that, had the graphic user interface, the GUI that they ultimately used to create the mouse and stuff like that. So, I mean, there's an example of where they were looking what everybody else was doing. And then they said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to go over and we're going to do the exact opposite of them. And so that's kind of a big one is if you look at what other people are doing and you look at what's common in your world. And then what you want to do is you want to say, okay, what would be the polar opposite of what these people are doing? And is it possible for us to build a product, to build a business, to build a marketing plan, a customer experience, that type of thing? And a lot of the most successful companies in the world, including Walt Disney, he started because he did not like the amusement parks. I mean, as far as the amusement park side went, he didn't like the way they were. So he went and he did the exact opposite and built Disneyland from that. So I think that's a really good place to start. Is to write down what everybody else is doing, and then ask yourself what would be the polar opposite of that, and is that something that we can do?
You know what's interesting about that comment, and I don't disagree at all, is that seems to be exactly what hardly anybody's doing, right? I mean, seriously, everybody goes to competitor research and then they literally just copy it, right? And that's why you see, oh, well, I'm, I seem to remember some example, some company put stores somewhere, and then the competitors put stores right next to them because
Yeah.
they were just like, oh, maybe, I mean, they looks like it works for them, right?
Right. Yeah. I'll give you a perfect example. Who in the hotel industry? I'm asking you this, Christoph. If you can answer this, who in the hotel
I'm ready.
industry created the heavenly bed?
Oh, I just read about this. Heavenly, I think, is the
You probably read
Sheridan.
it in my book.
I did. Sheridan, right? Marriott.
It was Westin Hotels.
West,
And,
that's Sheridan.
and
Yep.
here's the thing, they created this bed, which was a better bed than what was what was typically in nice hotels like them and Marriott and the other ones like that, the Hiltons and stuff. But they kind of plussed it a little bit by making it a little, fluffier, a little plusher, and nicer pillows and stuff like that. And then they called it the heavenly bed. Well, wasn't very long after that every one of the hotel chains had their own type of cool bed, for you, beds that were sleep number, beds that were, that helped you sleep better at night because they were cooler or something like that. But everybody looked at what they did and they said, well, we can do something. We can do that, and we can do it better. And then we're going to go out and promote our bed. And so it was the bed wars and stuff. And that's what happens in so many cases where somebody comes up with an idea and they start to do it, and if it appears to work, if it appears to be successful, it gets copied. And people complain about this a lot. Over the years in my speeches and consulting and stuff, people will say, it's really common for me to hear from people saying, oh yeah, we came up with this idea, man, all our competitors copied it. That's terrible of them. Like, you do the same thing, and that's just the way business works. Okay. But if you want to be if you want to be off the charts successful and really, out there, you got to do something different. Let me tell you, Threads is not different. Right? If you know what I'm talking about.
I
Threads
I
is,
do, however, so here's what's interesting about that. Threads, right? The social media platform.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Not different at all. But you know why a lot of people go to it, including myself, is because we're sick and tired of what X is doing, right? We're done with
That's
X.
right.
We're out of here.
Yeah.
And I have, I'm basically walking away from like 60,000 followers or something on Twitter because it's like, or X, because it's
Yeah.
kind of moving. I don't
It,
know where it's moving.
I'm not, and that's why Threads got started. That's why,
I know.
Zuckerberg started Threads, which just absolutely skyrocketed in its opening. No, it's coming back down quickly. People are a lot of people are just saying to me, hey, what? It's not that great. So
We'll see.
uh,
We'll see what happens. It's the thing I'm
yeah,
worried about. Not to go totally down this rabbit hole, but on Threads is, is it going to be like Instagram? Is it going to be like Facebook? And those algorithms are horrible, in my opinion. Now, let me ask you something. So when it comes to, so how can you be uncopyable? So when I'm thinking about the hotels or even airlines, right? I mean, I'm thinking when I traveled a lot, I'm like, I would stay in a Marriott or Sheraton. They're not the same, right? But why would I stay there? I would stay there because I have the most points there. I went down that rabbit hole, right, of whatever. And then I'm going to Europe and I still have status with American Airlines, but we bought the seats we bought, right? Like typically we would have gotten upgraded. We just bought business class, wasn't a horrible deal. But the only reason I ended up on American Airlines versus United or Lufthansa or whatever to Europe is because they were the cheapest, right? So
yeah.
like the whole relationship thing kind of went out the window. So how I have no idea why that just happened. Did you see that?
I think that's cool. Somebody sent us balloons.
How did that happen?
I don't know.
Congratulations. Is that what it was? That was kind of cool, but how do we get them back? Balloons. Is that the sign for balloons?
That was
I was
awesome.
doing something like that. That's unbelievable.
Hey, that is
Okay.
very, very cool. Well, to respond to that,
Yes.
first of all, we have all fallen for the frequent prisoner programs. Okay. And that's what I call them, because like on American Airlines, you say American Airlines. Okay. I have over 6 million miles on American Airlines alone. Okay. Which means I am trapped in their program. Okay. I literally can't leave. Now, other airlines, they'll promise me something. They'll say, "Oh, we want you, but I'm like, no, I'm stuck. I'm stuck with these guys. I'm not happy about it, but I'm stuck with these guys because, as you well know, Christoph, I mean, when I first started doing this, my collecting frequent flyer miles was back, started in 1982 or 1992, something like that.
Yep.
And back then, man, you were treated like royalty. You were totally treated like royalty. I was one of the top 12 flyers for American one year, and they took the top 12 people for 1 week of golf in Great Britain. Flew us all over their first class international. They put us up. They took us around. Everything was free, because we were their top 12 flyers. And I still remember sitting in one of the pubs with these other people, and of course we had camaraderie, right? And one of the guys says, "Hey, I'm just curious. How do you guys feel about this being one of the top 12?" And to a person in that room, every single person said, "I have no interest in being in the top 12 program next year." Because flying, that kind of flying, you're a sick person if you like it. You really are. And I'm talking to you, George Walther. He knows who I'm talking to. And so
I think it
anyway,
is kind
now
of
I'm on a
addictive.
rant. You got me on a rant
Okay.
about these
Okay.
frequent prisoner
Bringing you
programs.
back. What's the visual effect here? What's happening when I do this? Okay. So I think it's actually kind of addictive, to be honest, when you travel that much. But anyway, I'm a recovering travelaholic. So I know we're going to be running out of time here before we know it. A
Yep.
great discussion, Steve. Really appreciate it. But let's talk about in today's world. How can you build? I mean, anybody can start a brand in like seconds, right? I mean, you can become an Amazon influencer. You can sell stuff on Amazon. Doesn't even have to be any good. I know Amazon is trying to get that under control. But I mean, you can just become whatever you want to become. So how do you become uncopyable in today's world where it's, in theory, so much easier just to launch and go?
Well, if you're talking about from people or people in companies, a little bit different. One of the big problems in today's world is that technology has commoditized everything. Like you just said, if somebody wants to start a store on Amazon, it's now an Amazon store. They can put whatever products they want to go in there, and then they can go out and promote them and do that type of stuff. But what makes them different? Why do people follow Mr. Beast, for example, on YouTube? Why? Well, because Mr. Beast, it's not just that he does really wild and crazy things, but from the very beginning of when he started doing all this stuff, he made it very clear that his number one goal was to help people and to try to raise money to help other people. And he enjoys giving money away. And by doing these stunts and these projects that he has where he's giving money away, he is making a lot. Okay, but it's not based on the product. It's based on his personality. It's based on the story. Now you talk about storytelling, which I love. Storytelling is great for creating a branding promise. A promise is, you make a promise to people of who you are, what you represent, what your values are, what your rules in life are, and then you share all that stuff, and then you have stories that are proof positive of what that you are who you say you are. And if your story resonates, and some people are going to go, I love that. I love that that person is like that. I love that Mattress Mac down in Houston in his gallery furnitures. I love the fact that he is such a supporter of charities in Houston, but he's also he's also crazy better. He bets millions of dollars on sports. And, and between his connecting with charities and taking care of the community and that type of stuff, between that and this crazy betting, I don't know if it's his own drug or something like that. Those are stories that people tell about Mattress Mac down in Houston. And I was fortunate enough to consult for him because he read my book, and he read my book. You can see it's color orange. You see I'm wearing orange. Orange is our brand. And this is something that I tell people. You need to get anchors and triggers that will help people remember you, remind them of you. And he had read my book. And one day he was at a Houston Astros baseball game and he saw them all come running out in their orange jerseys. And he said, "Oh, Steve Miller, Uncopyable." And he called me the next morning and hired me on the spot.
Fantastic. Aren't you glad that you came on the show? I have.
Yeah, I've never heard that before.
Never. I got plenty of dad jokes. My wife told me I should tell
dad
fewer
jokes.
police
Let's go.
jokes.
Let's do it.
Fewer police jokes. And I said, I'll give it a rest. No worries. Ha, ha, ha. Okay, really quickly, like in 1 minute maybe. What's the can everyone do it? Or is it a skill you can learn, or is it something you're born with, or how does that look?
No, it's definitely something you can learn, and in my book Uncopyable, and then the follow-up book Stealing Genius, I show in the book, in my Uncopyable book, I talk about how you can create a customer experience that separates you from everybody else, how you can create a brand promise, how you can innovate in the way you do business with people. You might be selling a commodity, but you can completely change the customer experience and their relationship with you and how they see you through your strategy, through the experience that they're going to get from you, and through your branding promise. And then in Stealing Genius, my second book, I expand on that because that's the term that I use for going outside of your box. And I always say, hey, don't just get out of your box, build your own box. Look at Disney, look at Apple, look at all these companies. They did not follow anybody else's rules. They created their own rules of competition. They created their own experience. Space Mountain, folks, is just a roller coaster. Okay. And it's not even a great roller coaster.
No comment. We did go to Disneyland.
I love Space Mountain and I love Disney, but I've been in Space Mountain when it stopped and all the lights came on. So it was just a roller coaster.
It was just a roller coaster. Time flies when you're having fun.
That's right.
Steve, really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you so
really
much,
quickly, 10 seconds. Tell us how do people connect with you and reach out to you.
Well, besides getting my book, which I appreciate you promoting it yourself, you can go to our website, which is BE Uncopyable, all one word, beuncopyable.com, and right there on the homepage, you can see where you can sign up to get our weekly newsletter. So that'd be great.
Thanks for tuning in. Please rate and review the Business Storytelling Show on your favorite podcast platform, and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode.